Before the Rising of the Phoenix. Chapter 2. The Man Behind Meek. 2002. The next morning, I arrived at the University of San Agustin, walking into the Liberal Arts College building and toward the BS Psychology department with the events of the previous night still playing in my head. 3 hours. A stranger. A mysterious voice named Miko. And an unexpected connection I couldn't quite explain. Ted was already there. The moment he saw me, he gave me that unmistakable look, the look of someone who already knew there was a story. So, he asked intriguingly, what happened with Miko? I told him everything. I told him about the call. How it started. What we talked about. How strangely easy the conversation felt. And how, before I knew it, 3 hours had passed. Ted listened, amused by the whole situation. What neither of us expected was that the call wouldn't be a one-night thing. Over the next few days, the calls became almost a daily routine. The landline would ring. Sometimes we'd talk about school. Sometimes about music, movies, friends, and whatever happened during the day. Sometimes the conversations became deeper and more personal. The aliases remained. He was Miko. I was Paris. But slowly, the voices behind those names were becoming real to each other. Then one day, Miko asked me something that changed everything. He invited me to watch a movie. A movie date. The first date. When I told my friends, they were immediately excited. Nina, Connie, Neil, Sonia, and Ted. They weren't about to let me meet this mysterious Miko completely alone. The plan was simple. Gaisano City Cinema. Ted was especially important because, among all of us, he was the one with a mobile phone capable of receiving Miko's text messages. So Ted became our communication center. We arrived at Gaisano City together. I was nervous. My friends, on the other hand, were having the time of their lives. They were teasing me, watching everyone who walked past, trying to figure out which person could possibly be the mysterious Miko. Then they spotted someone. An older-looking man wearing red. There, they said. I looked. The man was wearing something red. Miko had told me he would be wearing a maroon polo shirt. My friends immediately started teasing me. That's him. I was embarrassed. I didn't even know whether to laugh or disappear. Then Ted's phone received a text. It wasn't him. Miko was still on his way. 10 minutes passed. We waited. Then Ted's phone vibrated again. This time, the message was different. Miko had arrived. We looked toward the escalator. And then I saw him. A handsome, clean-cut guy was coming up the escalator. He was wearing a maroon polo shirt, blue jeans, and maroon loafers. For a moment, none of us said anything. We just stared. My friends looked at me. I looked at him. And somehow we knew. That was Miko. We met halfway. I introduced myself. Then I introduced my friends. And almost immediately, my friends explained why they were there. They were there for support. And to make sure I was safe. I wanted to disappear. I was so embarrassed. But underneath, the embarrassment was something else. Relief. The mysterious voice I had spent hours talking to on the telephone was standing in front of me. He was real. And somehow, seeing him in person made the connection feel even more natural. Eventually, my friends let us go. It was finally just the two of us. We bought our tickets. Then came another surprise. We were seated in a couple's chair. Of all the seats in the cinema, I remember feeling awkward at first. But as the movie started, I gradually relaxed. The lights dimmed. The screen illuminated the theater. And the nervousness slowly disappeared. For the first time, I wasn't talking to a voice through a telephone. I was sitting beside the person behind the voice. After the movie, when the film ended, Miko invited me to dinner. We talked about the movie, our impressions, the scenes we liked, what we thought about the story. It was another conversation that somehow felt effortless. Then he offered me a beer. At that time, I wasn't a drinker, but I accepted. One beer became part of the evening. The hours passed, and before I realized it, my curfew had already passed. I knew I was in trouble. Miko offered me a place to stay. We took a taxi. By the time we arrived, rain had started pouring. We ran from the taxi toward his doorway, trying not to get completely soaked. Inside, we dried ourselves and caught our breath. He explained that his own room was undergoing renovations, so we would sleep in his older brother's room. It was an unexpected situation. But strangely, I wasn't as nervous anymore. We continued talking. The same effortless conversations from the telephone were now happening face to face. Only this time, there was no landline between us. No aliases. No mysterious text messages. Just two people sitting together late at night, talking about themselves. Then, eventually, he told me something. My real name is Alan. The name stayed with me. Alan. Not Miko. Not the mysterious text mate. Alan. I smiled and finally returned the truth. My name is Michelangelo. Then I explained the nickname I'd been using. Mika. I paused. With a C, not a K. We laughed. After all those conversations, all those aliases, and all the mystery surrounding our first meeting, we finally knew each other's real names. Alan. Michelangelo. The rain continued outside. The night had become quiet. And eventually, we said goodnight. We went to sleep. Neither of us could have known that this ordinary night in 2002 would become one of those memories that would remain long after everything else had changed. At that moment, there was no phoenix. There was no rising. There was no way of knowing what the future would bring. There was only a boy named Michelangelo, a boy named Alan, and the beginning of something neither of them could yet name. The aliases had ended. The real story had begun.